95.7 The Fox, the Valley's only home for classic rock. Got an oldie but a goodie coming up for you here for your morning time drive. Hope you're all safe out there. No major traffic incidents to report at this point. Fingers crossed that remains true. Make sure you check back in with us at the top of every hour. You're on 95.7 The Fox. Josie's on a vacation far away. Cut it down and talk it over. So many things that you want to say. You know, I like my girls a little bit older. I just want to use your love tonight. Yeah, the hog. We out there, everybody. 95.7 The Fox here at the top of the hour with your morning traffic report. There is congestion on the 41 heading southbound out of the Fresno metro area. No surprise to anyone who lives around here, of course, but steer clear of that area if you can on your way to work this morning. Otherwise, things are smooth sailing out there. Coming to you live here from the 95.7 The Fox studios, this is The Hog. The Hog, dude. Got a little AC/DC for you this morning, requested by Bridget over on 41st Street. She's waiting in traffic. Wants to hear a little Back in Black here on 95.7 The Fox. Back in Black on the track, trying to get the bit back. Hitting the post, baby. Hey, 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 hey. Hope you're doing well, Paul. Well, thank you. Can we hear In Bloom, please? Now, see, my 95.7 The Fox is the one of my childhood, okay? Nirvana was not classic rock yet at that time. So I still use boomer rock. Suey. .7 The Fox, 7 minutes after the hour here in your morning time drive station, the only home for classic rock. Got a little bit of that Nirvana coming at you. Hey, when you come to the party here at 95.7 The Fox, come as you are, your only place for classic rock. Come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be. Bob and Tom. Oh, God, dude. And I swear that I don't have a gun. Do 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 do. What's on your mind, Paul? Nothing. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Just felt like doing a little streaming. Dude, you know what I miss from the 80s the most was that fucking sweet synth. I didn't know that like synths would go completely out of style, dude. Now I guess people are using them again, but not really in the same way. That sweet 80s synth, you know? .7 The Fox. Hope you're home and cooling down after that hot drive time. That bell has rung. Your job is over. And now you can kick up your feet, crack a beer, and watch the sunset here on 95.7 The Fox. We got some Mr. Take These Broken Wings here on your only home for classic rock, 95.7 The Fox. Any info on future meetups? No, but when I know, you'll know. You know, we don't like, we'll get it planned and then we'll announce it. Everybody will come. It'll be fun. You do a promotion for the local car dealer. Did you ever do radio in your high school? No, it wasn't an option though. I probably would have tried for it if it was an option. .7 The Fox, 7 after the hour. Wanted to let you know that owning a car is attainable. I know you might think I've gone crazy, but the people over at Own a Car have made a pledge. Bad credit, no credit, new credit, doesn't matter. There is a path for you to drive out on your own set of wheels today. That's Own a Car, 1-800-OWN-A-CAR. Book your appointment now. Yeah, I did do CB radio as a child, yeah. And probably almost got killed for it a couple of times, honestly. Whatever, worth it. It was all for the lulz anyway. How a couple? Well, the first time was when the dude named Ghost Rider tracked me and my friend down and was like driving back and forth up and down our block, and we lived way out in the middle of nowhere, so that was crazy. And he was threatening to shoot us if we popped our heads out. And then, there was another dude who I think went to jail for killing his wife later, who showed up and was parked out outside of my bedroom window all night one night. Couldn't your folks have protected you? Yeah, they could have had they known what I was doing. But then if they knew what I was doing, they wouldn't have let me do what I was doing. You see? This was not done with parental approval. This was strictly off the books. This was a black bag op, okay? No parents, no teachers. Nobody talks to the fucking cops. Yeah, I mean, as soon as the cops came to my parents and told them what I was up to, it was over for me. The good old days had gone. It was time for me to hang up my hat. I've seen some parts of the Cat Williams interview with Shannon Sharp you're talking about. Made some pretty crazy allegations or whatever about Hollywood. How did they find your location? So CB radio is measurable in strength. You can tell how far away somebody is based on how hard they're pinging on your unit. So you had, a couple of needles on the front of your CB radio. One of them, kind of indicated you're going out at full strength. And then the other kind of peaked when somebody else was talking. And so he basically triangulated us. We stayed on all night trolling him. And so he basically just drove around town till he found a direction where the signal was getting stronger, kept going in that direction, and then, figured it out. Pretty fucked up, right? Whatever, man. I got up to some shenanigans in my life, okay? All right. I pulled some fucking. You guys call me a scammer now. You have no clue, man. I was one antisocial motherfucker. You gave me a little bit of anonymity, and now, dude, all the rules were off. How old were you when you did this? I did this pretty constantly from about the age of 10 to 13, 14, something like that. I think it was around 13 when the cops and the FCC were involved. My parents were given the warning and I was pulled in for questioning. Amazing how helicopter parents grew up in the peak of violent crime. I mean, it makes sense, right? Makes sense why they would have like an overblown idea of how dangerous things are out there. Yep, I was a radio terrorist for sure. I mean, I was breaking communication, like federal communications law. I was making threats, like cussing over public airwaves. Yeah. I was a fucking holy terror for about, I don't know, 3-4 years in my little town. Yeah, threatening to bang truckers' wives, describing how I already had, threatening to bang truckers' moms, threatening to show up and shit right in the face of a trucker, threatening to find a trucker and shit in his cab. Like, wait till he gets out of his truck somewhere and then, like, shimmy the door and get in there and shit all over his cab. Just like the usual shit. Just the usual, dude. That's why, like, nothing really surprises me. Like, when kids are fucking around on the internet, it's just like when you leave them, like when you leave children to their own devices, they're gonna do some evil shit if you don't stop them. Do I think kids still play outside? I mean, I still see kids riding around on bikes and stuff, so I assume they do. I don't think they play outside as much as we did, but they have more reasons to be inside than we did. Like for most of my childhood, if you didn't go out and see your friends, you couldn't talk to your friends. Like there was no such thing as a fucking cell phone when I was a kid. Like the closest you had was a beeper. You could get like a beeper and then call somebody from a payphone or something, but nobody I knew had a fucking beeper. So you had to go out. Like you had to like call somebody's house real quick and be like, "Hey, I want to get together with so and so and so and so over at so and so's house." Yeah. All right, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll bring the beer. Blah blah blah. Home phone, yeah, of course. Well, I mean, yeah, but dude, I mean, like, you don't want to be sitting around just like fucking talking to somebody on the phone. That was like, I don't know. That was a way like kids that were like teenagers in the 80s were into that shit. In the 90s, we didn't want to fucking sit around and talk on the phone all fucking day, dude. That was some 80s shit where, like, you know, you're all like holed up in your bedroom with your fucking pink phone, talking until the wee hours till your parents tell you got to get off. Impromptu kegger. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get kegs very often. It was kind of tough to get our hands on alcohol. We kind of had to drink whatever we could get, which in our area amounted to a lot of really cheap, shitty wine. That was the drink of choice when I was a teenager. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we didn't even really have anything in mind of like where to go. You know, it was just we'd go wherever. We would go to the park, sit in the park, smoke doobies. You know, the big thing was when I was a teenager, Star 69. Do you guys remember Star 69? Is that even still a thing? Star 69 would let you call somebody back after they'd called you. It would like dial back the last person that called you, which was like a huge deal because people used to do like, you know, people used to just like do hangups a lot. And for the longest time, there was no way to know like who was doing it. You couldn't prove it. But then Star 69 came out and you could call them right back. Best memory from that time? Best? I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot of pretty strong memories, man. A lot of the memories that I have were trying to get with this chick that I was all in love with in high school and just like pursuing that angle or whatever at parties, like going to parties to be around her or whatever. Making a party happen in hopes that she would come. That sort of thing. Like I don't know. That was just that was a big part of my fucking day as a teenager. That was a big part of my worries at that point in my life. So I remember a lot of that stuff. Did you pursue this chick when you went to a BDSM mansion party? No, different chick. I was kind of there for a different chick that time, but not really. Like that one wasn't chick oriented. It was more like I want to go here and maybe meet a chick. That's kind of like that was the thought process. Explain a phone book to kids now. Yeah. So back in the day, if you wanted to call somebody but you didn't know their number, you had to go get the yellow pages or the phone book or whatever the fuck that everybody got for free every year. And in that would be listed all the local phone numbers. So if you knew the person's last name, you look up the last name, first initial, and you call the number in the book. And 9 times out of 10, it was right. You know, get the right number. Yeah, phone books, dude. Used to be a thing. I don't know what to tell you. It was a scary time back then. You could actually like go drive somewhere and not tell anybody where you were going, and nobody knew where you were, and people didn't freak out. It was a crazy time. I hate that about like the modern era or whatever. Just like the idea that I don't know, you're expected to be reachable 24/7, 365 by default. It was just like that. It was never a thing. It never really should have been a thing. Aren't you transhumanist? Though I don't know if I would call myself transhumanist. Like I kind of support transhumanism. I guess that makes me a transhumanist. Like I think standing in the way of transhumanism is just like denying the fucking direction that human beings are clearly fucking aimed at. You know, I mean, we've been transcending the bounds of time and space with our communications, with our information transfer. It's only a matter of time before we're integrated into that system in various ways directly. I'm a fucking 20-year-old dude. I shouldn't need to tell anyone where I'm going. Well, that's the thing. Is like when I was fucking 15, 16, I could go somewhere and not tell anybody where I was going. I had to be back by a certain time or call or whatever, you know, but like there wasn't like I don't know. If I wasn't grounded or whatever, there was no leash. If I didn't come home after school, nobody freaked out, you know. If I decided I wanted to go chill or go party Friday night instead of come home, and I just went straight there. Like as long as I called and said, "Hey, I'm gonna fucking spend the night over here, at Morgan's or whatever," like nobody cared, you know. Like it wasn't a big deal. I didn't have to be reachable 24/7. Do you think if it was like if you were a girl, it would have been a bigger issue? I don't know. I didn't. I don't know. I assume maybe it would have been depending on the family I was in or whatever. I don't know that it was that big of a deal for my sisters. Like I was pretty much out of the house by the time they were old enough to be doing that type of shit, but I don't think that they were restricted from doing it in any way that I wasn't. You know, I couldn't just like not call for a fucking day or something. Like I had to tell them where I was, but you get the drift. and have to consult everybody about everything, you know, like. I think transhumanism is reasonable up to a point. Being able to alter one's body is something I think should be pursued. So when it comes to alterations to the mind or unborn fetuses that get to me, yeah, I mean, I can understand your trepidation about it, but I don't know why it gets to you that much. I mean, with time, people's whole worldview changes, you know, like the things that people value today would be unrecognizable in a lot of instances to somebody just 100 years ago. And somebody 100 years ago, what they valued would have been unrecognizable to somebody 100 years before them, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it probably like rubs most people the wrong way if they think about it in that way. But that's because they're not living with I mean, like, I gotta be honest with you, I'm an example of this. Like, to me, cell phones are a fucking curse. But I realize that okay. All right, you should be able to hear me now. I don't know what the fuck happened. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. My computer had a little freak out. But it has calmed its shit now. Yeah. So as I was saying, I don't like cell phones either as like a communications leash or as an object of fascination. But I use one all the time, and I recognize that genie is not going back in the box. So a lot of times futurism is just extrapolation, right? So let's just look at person to person communication and how it has developed over the last 100 years. So you've got early telephone systems or telegraph systems that were monitored by special operators that would take the fucking Morse code and translate it and bring you a message, to direct voice communication via wire with old telephones. Then the old telephone went from analog to digital. When I was born, it was still pretty common for everybody to have a rotary phone, and those disappeared by the time I was 10, you know. Cordless became a thing during my lifetime. Might have been a thing early on in my lifetime, but it wasn't something that everybody had. And then, all of a sudden you didn't want to be tied down to a cord. The Then you had, the early mobile phones. Then the early cellular phones. Then ubiquity of cellular phones, along with ubiquity of voice over IP communication via the internet. And now we're sitting at the total ubiquity of voice and video chat available 24/7, 365 with everybody that you know. That's where we're at currently, along with access to the broader internet in its totality, a computer in your pocket. Car phones, you ever have those? I never had a car phone. No, nobody I knew had a fucking car phone. They were like exclusively like rich business people had those. They were like exploitatively expensive to install in your car and required like a really expensive fucking like phone plan to use. I bet TJ and Scotty's dad had a car with a car phone in it. Just like knowing what his age would have been and the age at which he was super wealthy and well off, I bet he had a car phone. I bet if you asked him, they'd remember it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but he seems like the type of dude that would have it. You thought they were like the price of speakers? Well, the unit might have been, but it was more about like the fucking hundreds of dollars a month you had to pay for the service because it was like a boutique thing back then. What do you think of their dad? I mean, I never got to meet the guy, and so I really rely on a lot of their stories. He sounds like a super fucking interesting dude. You know, it's hard to get a feel for somebody, but I'd like to think that he would be a dude that would just be fun to be around for a few hours. Just shoot the shit with, have a few beers with or something. Seems like he'd have a lot to say about a lot of things. Yeah, I had a really nice sound system in my car at one point when I was a teenager. Saved up for 2 summers basically and bought my first car, and then the next summer I saved up and bought a nice stereo system, the subwoofer and the fucking amps. Had a Lanzar boxed subwoofer. Had a really nice amp mounted, and then had like a Kenwood deck or something. Who would win, their daddy or your dad? I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on at what. My dad and their dad, from their stories, had some similarities, but some pretty stark differences as well. So I think it would be like, what are we talking about? Like a fist fight? Like, can my dad beat up their dad? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. My dad's a big dude, but he's not, I don't know. He's not like an imposing guy, really. Or at least I've never seen him that way. I mean, he's imposing to me as, his son or whatever in that way, but like physically imposing is not really, I don't know. I never looked at him that way. Tape deck or CD player. I had a CD player. like by that time, that was the standard. So, I mean, I had cars with tape decks in them before, but like talking about the Kenwood that I had, it was a CD player. You could pop the face off of it. Had a little case that I would put in my pocket, keep people from stealing it. Did you ever hear of your dad fighting? Not really. I mean, I've heard like, I don't know, some like vague stories of, you know, some scuffle breaking out somewhere. My dad was not, you know, he's not a dude that's looking to fight you. I mean, I don't think he would back down if he had to or whatever. But I don't think he does. That's not where his mind goes first. My dad's like a mediator type of personality. My dad's likely the one in the room that like tries to take control of at least the form and structure of the conversation to make it linear and, you know, keep it fair and all that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did almost fight a dude over the trumpet for sure. But it was, you know, it was almost. Is that why your dad became a union president? Probably. I mean, he definitely had that, you know, whatever it is that allows people to speak to other people and keep their attention for longer than a couple of seconds and be self-effacing and funny and serious all at the same time. Whatever that is, whatever that little sprinkle of social giftedness is, he had that. So it's a pretty natural position, I think, for him. Are you more hot headed? I know you try and front as being kind of soft, but I get the vibe you can get real aggressive. Yeah, I don't get physically aggressive with people. I can get verbally very aggressive and shit, and I can talk shit and do the shit talk banter with most people, but I don't ever like loom over people or ball my fists up or show any of those signs of aggression like I'm going to beat your ass. That like I'm not saying I've never been at that point before. I'm just saying like it takes a lot to get me there. I'm much more likely to argue it out verbally with somebody. Yeah. My dad mediated a meeting where the pissed off Santa Claus guy was. He's pissed off because people were making fun of him. Yeah, the only reason I got to sit in on that meeting is because my dad was president. He didn't have he couldn't afford a babysitter, so or didn't want to leave us with one, so he'd just bring us and stick us off in the corner, let us read a book or something. But I usually just sat and listened to the meeting. The crying towel, yeah. To be fair, that does increase the chance of a fight if you're verbally aggressive. Yeah. No, I get it. I'm not like when I say verbally aggressive, I don't necessarily mean like threatening, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Like I'll raise my voice, I'll call a name or whatever. I'm not gonna be like, I'll beat your fucking ass, you bitch. Like I don't ever get to that point. Like unless it's fucking the last ditch. People seem more angry these days. I don't know. People have always been fucking angry, honestly, in my experience. I think like one of the things that typifies the American psyche is like how we vent our anger and how we carry it. And I feel like it's pretty typical of Americans to be little fucking simmering coals of rage at the heart of them. I don't think everybody's like that. And I don't think anybody's like that all the time, but you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't tough in high school either, though. I've never done the tough guy persona thing. I've never attempted to wear that hat because it really just isn't me. Like I don't have that impetus or drive. Like I'll get real mad, and I'm not saying I don't have flashes of like thoughts of physical violence or whatever. I think everybody does at a certain point. But in terms of actually carrying that shit out, I just never have in my life, really. Very rarely has that had to come up in my life, basically. And I think I do my best to avoid it. How useful is anger as an emotion? Um, I think it's useful as a motivator. I think it's useful as primarily as a motivator. I think it's a natural emotion for human beings to feel. I don't think it should be eschewed. I think a lot of people have anger problems where their anger is over projected or over justified. And to be honest with you, people that have like really super prickly, angry kind of personalities, typically it belies a really heavy underlying anxiety. High anxiety personality types have a huge, not exclusively, but it's almost like, when you meet a person that's got a hair trigger, they're probably suffering from anxiety, but if you meet somebody suffering from anxiety, it doesn't necessarily mean they've got like a hair trigger. So it's just one of the manifestations of high anxiety. A lot of people internalize it, turn it inward, and punish themselves instead of other people. I tend that way with mine. Well, yeah, like I'm gonna stand up for I'm not just gonna stand there and get my ass beat. If it comes to that, I'm not like I'm not a trained fighter. I probably would not make a very good fighter, but if it comes to that, if it's gotta be that way, I'm not the type of person that's just gonna clam up and not be able to do anything, but I just don't ever want to have to do that, and I find that most of the time you really don't. Like, sometimes, I don't know. I'm a pretty pacifistic dude, but I do think that violence sometimes is a problem solver, and it can sometimes be, one of the more positive outcomes in a situation, you know. Like I would rather two kids beat the fuck out of each other, which sucks, but I would rather that happen than one of them or both of them to bring guns to school and take it out on each other that way and their whole class. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely an escalation beyond a fist fight that makes it not the worst fucking thing in the world, It sucks. People can get real hurt, hurt really bad in a fist fight. It's not something that I like condone people to go out and do all the time. But I don't think it's the worst fucking thing in the world. My dad was in a special response anti-terrorist unit for a nuclear plant in South Carolina when I was a kid. He was in an issue of Soldier of Fortune, breaching a doorway with a team armed with an MP5. Cool. Well, I was kind of talking about it the last time I streamed. I think anger kind of turns people off now in a way that it didn't in my generation. Really, the question is how much of that can I subvert and still be bringing you guys what I consider to be genuine me? Yeah, I don't know. But there are times when I feel like my anger doesn't serve me the best. Not necessarily because it's wrong of me to use it, but because the perception around people using that type of aggressive language or whatever seems to have changed pretty starkly in the last 20 years, 30 years. So, yeah. So it's one of those things, I try and be as true to myself as possible. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it feels better to me, like having worked in this podcaster business or whatever, there are just a fuck ton of people that you don't ever get to see a glimpse of the real them during their shows. And for some people, it really works for them, I'm not even poo-pooing it as a tactic. It's just not my thing. I would rather you guys like be disappointed that I got salty and mad, in an argument about politics. Like I would rather risk that than spend my time like with my finger up in the air trying to test which way the wind was blowing on every fucking take, Like you may not you may disagree with me, you may think I'm fucking stupid, but you get nothing short of 100% what I actually think, and how I actually present it, to others. And, I'm pretty committed to that. I really wouldn't want to do this if I had to, have like uh, social media acumen or whatever the fuck. Why didn't you call out Vosh on his Ukraine warmongering? I mean, I would have been happy to if that's where the conversation went. The conversation didn't really go far beyond vote blue no matter who. Had Ukraine, I think Ukraine probably would have came up had Israel not been such a fucking new and contentious issue. We did talk about Israel, not super in depth, but a few times was referenced and discussed. And I think that probably would have been Ukraine had Israel not happened. Just didn't get there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my parents yelled a lot before they got divorced and then yelled yelled a lot after. Both of my parents were pretty fucking loud. Did quite a bit of yelling. Well, yeah, I mean that's why I don't like calling them debates, because a debate leaves you at least some room to argue about who was correct. Because there was like fair and equitable time, and there was constraints on topic, and there was prep that went into it on both sides, specifically on topic, and like it gives you a way better, like, I think it kind of debases the term debate to call neckbeards on the internet arguing via Skype or whatever. Like, to call that a debate, I think just kind of like devalues the term and undermines the term. A debate's supposed to follow a specific format. Well, yeah, and the reason for that is to create an environment of equal presentation for the ideas, for the two people, going head to head, taking one position or the other. I mean, debate is honestly something that should be practiced. If you really want to debate, you shouldn't always be taking a topic that you agree with. Like, part of debate is knowing how to craft. It's the art of crafting an argument, right? So there are elements of that to head-to-head extemporaneous conversations about politics. It can help you. Definitely, like, studying debate a little bit can help you. But to call every fucking conversation you have a debate is just kind of stupid, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling super salty today, so you might not be able to. You might not be able to mine much political salt or whatever out of me today. I'm just not. Hey, I'm feeling pretty unsalted today, uncured. You're a Beverly Hills lily white rich boy, Paul. Damn. I don't really think that comment cut very deep because it's just true. You know what I mean? Like, be like him going like, "You're fat." I'm like, well, yeah, I am fat. Used up your salt reserves on the last ideology. Yeah, maybe I did. I wonder how much the rent is in the poor part of Beverly Hills. I mean, there's really no poor part of Beverly Hills. Like, I guess relative to the more upscale parts of Beverly Hills, there's parts you might want to call the, but like, it's not like there's a hood in Beverly Hills, like Beverly Hills is pretty unattainable for most people. Like, even in the more modest areas and the lower lying parts of Beverly Hills. So you kind of have to be there to know what I'm talking about. Like, you got to visit LA to understand. Like, you're not going to fucking drive around Beverly Hills and find like a real seedy neighborhood. Like, that's just not it. The poor part of Beverly Hills. Yeah, dude. Right. Dude, talking about all this rent stuff, I don't even know if I want to go into it because I don't want like people to think that it's, I don't know, but I do kind of fucking want to talk about it too. But I don't know that it's something that I'm going to do. But me and Amelia had a really interesting conversation last night about like another option for us in terms of home ownership. And I don't know. I think I thought about it like in depth for the first time in my life, and it started to make a whole lot of fucking sense, dude. Like, one of the problems is like we want to buy a house. It's hard, obviously, to buy a house right now, anyway. But one of the problems is that mostly me, I don't know where the fuck I want to be. Like, part of it is like settling down in an area for me and not wanting to like move all around and move a million fucking times to figure out, you know? And so, what about getting like one of those big fucking mobile homes, dude? You know, depending on the layout of them and how new they are and stuff, they're way fucking cheaper than a fucking house. And then really the worry would be for the job, is there good enough like satellite internet options for when I'm away? And then, you know, I just know from personal experience that there are places that have hookups that have decent internet and shit, decent enough for me to do the show. And then it would be just like, you know, I could fucking live somewhere for 3 months, like establish residence in a state that I want to have residency in, and then just spend the year fucking traveling. It's like, oh, we want to try out Arizona for a couple of months this winter. Let's do it. Down to Arizona, find a fucking camp spot that's got decent hookups. We'll spend 2-3 months there, paying way less than I'm paying for rent where I'm at now. Get sick of it, pull up stakes, head on down the fucking road. Oh, let's go check out West Virginia. Find a fucking like pretty remote campsite up in West Virginia with hookups. Tow a little car behind it so that we, you know, when we get to a place, we have something we can tool around the area in. Go get groceries. Come back up. Let the slides out on the fucking mobile home. Set up the fucking little streaming area and go to town, you know? Like, it's honestly doable. Like, it's super, like, oh no, for real though. Like, I think it would require some lifestyle change, but here's the thing. Like, me and Amelia are already frugal in terms of like, we've got a lot of, like, I have crap, but it's crap that like I've just carried with me for no reason. So, like, downsizing it is not going to be hard because there's shit that's still in boxes from our last move, just kind of hanging out. And if it's still in boxes and I don't know what's in there, chances are I don't need it. I've been at this place for almost 2 years now, or over 2 years, I guess. You know, so it's like downsizing from what we've got would not be tough. I'm thinking about getting a new computer anyway and getting a really high end laptop instead of a fucking big desktop or something. You know, that's doable. Get a secondary monitor, rig up a little system where I can tear it down real easy when we're on the road so it's not rattling around and shit, and then put it up real easy. Would you hunt your own meat? Nah. You find a place that's got like a little town 10, 15 miles away, you know, nestled up in the mountains. You plan the whole thing out. The little town's got a grocery store, a couple restaurants. You pull up, you stay out in nature, and then, you need to go fucking shopping or whatever for stuff to cook. You take the fucking drive into town, you do some shopping, come back up the mountain. Have a little stash of firewood, buy firewood wherever you're at so you can have a little pit fire when you want it. Get tired of the area, fucking pull up stakes and plan another one, Take your time too when you're traveling so you're not on the road fucking 24 hours. Just plan out some stops like, hey, we're going to do this in the first day, and here's our first stop. We're going to spend the night here in this beautiful camping spot, and then, Thinking fifth wheel? No. I'm thinking of like Class A diesel motorhome with slides, towing capacity to tow a fucking, little mid-sized crossover or small crossover type vehicle or smaller. One of the big fucking, Class A's is kind of what I'm thinking. Not a brand new one, and definitely not the most high end one on the market. But, like a early mid 2000s Class A, way fucking cheaper than a house. People go like, yeah, well, your gas bill goes up because you're always using that to run the generators and stuff. And that's true, but you're keeping in mind you don't have a fucking electricity bill anymore. Like your electricity's being generated there or paid for at the little sites that you stop off at. We're lucky we've got two animals that love to travel. Like Cricket and Dino are both really good travelers, so they wouldn't mind being on the road. Yeah, you can get solar panels. I've heard that. Get like ones that are either mounted to the roof or that you just set out at your campsite to catch the sun. They take a little bit of the fucking oomph out of the diesel generator power. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is you plan it out for campsites that only have full hookups, decent, internet, so that you're never stuck in a place where you don't have what you need on that front. And you pay a way lower rate than you would pay to rent even a fucking studio apartment in most cities to stay there. And you're not under any obligation to stay any longer than you want. When you're done, you pull up stakes and you move on. Pay what you owe and go. When you still need an address for your license and mail. Yeah, I mean, you establish residency in a city, but you can have your mail forwarded. You understand that? Like you get your mail rerouted through like a mailboxes, etc., or whatever. Well, just one of these places where you can have a postal box, and then you call that company when you're in a place where you can get to another one, and you say, hey, I want, I'm here for 3 months. I want to have all my mail routed to this mailboxes, etc. And you do that. That's how people do it. I mean, a lot of the shit, yeah. I mean, shit gets emailed more often than not. But yeah, for important shit, you need to get a package or whatever. You need to order something from Amazon. You just have your mail forwarded to the new address. How long can you stay at a Walmart without them tripping? I honestly don't know the rules on that. But I wouldn't really be, I mean, that might be something that we do for a night if we're just tired and want to pull over. But, I'd be looking to just hop from campsite to campsite. And when we're on the way, one of the cool things would be is like we wouldn't really have to worry about full hookups. We could, if we're on the way and we're going somewhere up in the mountains and we want to do like halfway stop, we don't have to worry about hookups. We can just pull off on a crazy like remote camping area, let the fucking diesel generator chuff through the night and fucking camp out there and just see some wilderness and shit. You know, howl at the moon a little bit, start a little fire, roast some weenies on it. I mean, it sounds like fucking just like fun. You know, it sounds good. I think it would do good for me too, honestly, because I tend to be a bit of a hermit. So this would like allow me to do that, but keep moving, keep seeing new things and trying new things. And, you know, if we want, like, say, like, think about it. If we wanted to go to Vegas, like, say we wanted to take a vacation to Vegas, like, instead of vacationing there, let's just pick a few months where we'd live in Nevada, find a campsite out on the Arroyo outside of Vegas, stay there, have our little car, 20 minutes, drive into town whenever we want for 3 months. You know what I mean? Like, would you bring a gun? If I did, I wouldn't talk about it. Let's just put it that way. The lifestyle really appeals to me, but my housing would be way small. Yeah, I mean, mine too. It would be a significant downsize from, we're living in a little single family home right now. And it would be a significant downsize for us. But we also don't have a fuck ton of shit. We just don't, you know? And those things are just loaded with all kinds of storage and shit. Just downsize to like the bare essentials in terms of what you need to set up a nice little picnic area once you get to your spot, you know? Some little folding tables, some comfy fucking lawn chairs, a little Weber grill, you know, a nice fucking boom box so you can put on some, you know, or Bluetooth speaker, I guess, nowadays. You know, some of them even have like little outdoor entertainment hookups so you can have like a TV that's mounted outside so you can sit, watch TV. You know, I mean, it's pretty fucking chill, right? What about weed? Yeah. I mean, hey, like, we only consider weed legal places. Done and done. Then I just got to, you know, get rid of everything before we travel. If we're going to be cutting through, you know, cities that don't allow it or states that don't allow it, get rid of it before we travel. And then as soon as we get where we're at, re-up. Like, there's more states now that allow recreational marijuana, I believe, than there are states that are like total prohibited. So bounce around between legal states, you know? That's something we talked about, Nick. We talked about the possibility of renting one and really giving it a go and seeing what the real ins and outs are. I also know somebody that lived like that for over a decade. It's pretty close to me that knows the ins and outs of it, and they could give me the straight skinny on like what I can expect and what the shitty parts of it are and what the hidden costs are and all that. But from what I was looking at last night, just pricing wise, getting a loan for one of those would be fucking phenomenally cheaper than the rent that I'm paying now or any kind of house payment that I could get in the area that I live in or pretty much in any area that I've looked at. I mean, it's just off tops way cheaper. And if I could be saving more money every month and have the freedom to kind of like be wherever I fucking want to be, whenever I want to be there, I mean, that's pretty fucking cool, honestly. And it might let me find that place that I do want to settle down in. You know, that's the great thing about these is, yeah, like when I buy this thing, it's going to depreciate, but it depreciates, you know, pretty slowly in comparison to a car. The resale value on these remains pretty decent. I'm going to get some money back out of it if I end up in a state where I'm just like, damn, I kind of want to be here. I find a house that I want to buy there, boom, sell that, use it as a down payment on the house. You know what the hidden expenses of doing that are? I mean, some of them. Maintenance on the big type of Class A diesel fifth wheels that I'm talking about is pretty expensive in comparison, as you might imagine, to a car. The tires are way more expensive. Having them worked on is way more expensive, so that's a hidden cost. The fuel is hidden cost. That's where you're getting gouged for not having a fucking electrical bill anymore, because now you're paying the gas money when you're running it, when you're not at a place with hookups. So that's a hidden cost. The fluctuating cost for pulling into some of these different RV parks, like none of them are going to be as expensive as renting an apartment monthly, but some are probably going to be more expensive than others, and just pricing that out. Insurance, but once again, if you bought a house, you have to have homeowners insurance, and that's expensive as fuck. So it's not really different from a house in that way. Yeah, I just don't think I could live out of a Sprinter van. I think I need a little more space than that. If I was a single dude, it was just me and Dinor or something, that might be plausible. But having a whole little family, out of a Sprinter van is just not feasible. I really think you should do this while you have the opportunity. Well, that's another thing, that kind of appealed to me. It's just like, I'm young enough and healthy enough to do this now. And I won't be in 10, 15, 20 years probably, so if I'm going to do it, now's the time. And if it's like not only like financially neutral, but actually ends up saving me money month to month, which I can really see it doing, then it's like just a positive move in every way. I don't know. Yeah. Middle of the woods hideout. I know, right? You guys would get some cool ass fucking nature ideologies if this comes to fruition. You guys would get some cool ass snowy fucking pine trees and beaches and rocky coves. What towns might you visit, dude? You got to understand, America is such a fucking broad land. Do you have any idea how many of these types of places are in every state? Like, no joke. These like camping hookup type of places, every state, every forest in America, every plains in America, every desert in America, every mountainous region in America, all of them are filled with these fucking camping spot hookups. And it's just like, well, yeah, that like digital nomad lifestyle. I mean, I would basically be adopting a form of that. And it's like it's working for a bunch of people right now. There are a bunch of people that live that way now and are pretty happy about it, apparently. So why not? I have a job that's really the base requirement, is that I can hook up a decent computer and have decent internet. And if I can satisfy those two needs at 95% of the places that I go to within my means, then the fuck, bro? Why wouldn't I? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Pab. there is like a little parallel world of off-grid trails and camping spots and stuff that, yeah, people rarely see. I've seen some of that growing up near to it and having parents that were pretty adventurous when I was a kid. Spent a lot of time in the mountains, did four-wheeling and shit. So I've been off trail and up into meadows and stuff that nobody's fucking seen, you know? And I really like that idea. I like the idea of being able to get off of the grid a little bit, but having access within striking distance to the grid if I need it, you know? That's why we're towing the little car behind. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Yellowstone. I've never gotten to go to Yellowstone National Park, so I would imagine that we would fucking find a place around there to stay for at least a couple months. Always wanted to visit Maine, and so you know, pick some summer months and end up on the East Coast a little bit. Amelia's got family back east, so it would be nice to be near them. Um, you know, I'm pretty much think I'd probably stay out of most of the South. I don't really I mean, there's a lot of beautiful things in the South, maybe the Southwest. Maybe like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico. I guess Nevada's not necessarily the Southwest, but Arizona. Like Arizona's got some beautiful camping spots. Go in the winter, you know what I mean? When it's not fucking scorching hot. Stay 20, 30 miles outside of Mesa or something. Beautiful. You know, but probably stay out of most of the South just, you know, for reasons that should be apparent to anybody. But yeah, just travel around the Midwest, travel around the kind of like Northeast, and of course the Pacific Northwest and the just West in general. I mean, we could spend a year moving every 3 months to a new biome and stay in California. Honestly, you know, like we could be, you know, we could be in the mountains for 3 months and then be in the desert for the winter and then the mountains back, you know, a beach for the summer. Feel free to hit me up with any Maine questions. I mean, yeah, I really like Maine. That we were really seriously thinking about like doing some fucking maybe making a little stay over in Maine and seeing how we liked it, but it was just too big of a fucking chunk to bite in the middle of fucking COVID. And it just kind of got put off. Did you camp in the redwoods? Yeah. I mean, there are a number of places you can camp in California if you want to be around redwood trees. There's Big Sur, and then there's Redwood National Forest. A lot of that's closed down, like a lot of the more touristy parts of it, but you can drive up in there and find these little camping spots. So yeah, absolutely. Camp in the redwoods. Camp by a river somewhere. I mean, all this is so fucking totally attainable. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was, you know, when I lived on that. You guys remember the ideologies when I first moved back to California, and I was renting a place kind of out in the boondocks, on a big piece of land, and man, that did good for me. Like it really did. It did good for my mind and my body and my soul. It really did. So I think being able to pull up to a new beautiful place every 3 months or every 2 months or every month if I want to, you know what I mean? And just have a change of scenery and a change of weather. And, you know, I fucking swelter in the summer where I'm at now. And it would be so nice to be able to go to a place that was cooler for the fucking summer, but so unattainable, you know, if you're talking about like renting or buying a house, you know. But under this, like, you know, I could come here and be around my family for a few months and stay in a fucking campsite somewhere up in the foothills around here. Then fucking, you know, come in the winter when it's nice and brisk and cold and not hot and shitty, and then pull out when I'm done, you know? I'll see you guys. See you guys next year. See you next winter. I'm out. You know, once it starts getting hot and muggy and shitty, pull out, man. Head up to the fucking get some altitude. Get some nice brisk air in the altitude for, you know, a few months. Why the fuck not? Be nice to avoid the snow. I mean, not, I don't necessarily want to avoid the snow, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, not be socked in for fucking months. Like, if you want to go at the end when it's like, you know, the spring melt is happening. So you get a little yay snow, and then it's, you know, it's not that big a deal. Because I like the snow for that. I don't know that I want to be buried in it for 6 months a year. Is that clam chowder place in San Francisco? It's not in San Francisco. It's in a place called Pismo Beach on the Central Coast. Not super far from Frisco, but definitely not in the area. It's closer to LA. And it's right on the Central Coast, right in the center of the California coast. If you just kind of like eyeball it and point your finger, you'll be in the region. And the clam chowder place is called Splash Cafe, and it's you can't miss it. It's literally right on the pier. So if you go right down, you know, if you go to Pismo, you go down to the main pier in town. Splash is right there. It's like a block off the pier. So unmissable and absolutely the best fucking clam chowder on the planet. Paul doesn't have pull-out game. I mean, whatever. I've never needed it. I've never needed a pull-out game. I mean, I wouldn't even have to stay in America. That's the crazy thing is like, you know, if I've got they've got these same kind of camping spots and hookups and stuff in Canada and Mexico if that becomes safer. I don't think I'd go now necessarily. Definitely not to like northwestern Mexico. If I was going to go, I'd have to go straight through to like southern, southeastern Mexico. Even there, though, it's pretty fucked up now. So, right here. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, like this is not something that's going to be happening like imminently or whatever, or maybe even at all, which is why I was hesitant to share it. But I just find it fun to think about. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I think it's worth considering, worth trying out, maybe. I mean, there's definitely some nice places that you can get in Mexico, but if you're talking about getting there overland, you're gonna have to go through some real shit fucking places. You know, if I'm talking about like crossing the border in my motorhome or whatever and taking that through to Mexico and trying to get to one of these places that's, you know, reasonably all right. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, here I am again. Guess who's back in the motherfucking house? Intaro Adun. So, what else have I been doing? Oh, I just figured out that OLED screens are legit the shit. I'd never really had one or messed around with one, but I've got one now, and they are fucking crazy. Super neat. So I've been playing Cyberpunk on an OLED, and it feels like a completely different game, honestly. Like I think what's happened with me is because I don't like, I don't know, like my graphical expectations aren't as high as like I think younger people's might be, because I remember when video games were just like a dot on the screen fighting another dot, you know. And so it, you know, I don't mind turning down the fucking graphics pretty far, and I've had this computer that I'm on for a long time now. And it's like I don't really upgrade the tech and shit. I kind of skip that stuff because it's expensive and I don't need the newest of everything. But you know, I have not seen OLED. What makes them so special? The black. It's fucking insane. OLEDs, from what I understand, are different. Like your normal kind of LCD screen uses backlights, so the blacks are more like really dark grays because they have to be lit like the rest of the screen. OLEDs are controlled at the pixel, so dark blacks, they will just turn the pixels off, which makes anything that you put up against a dark black pop super hard. Makes shadows and shadowy environments in video games amazing. Like super lifelike, realistic. Yeah, I still can't do the ray tracing, but I've seen it OLED with HDR and all that shit. It's like, whoa, this is fucking crazy. It's like a whole different game. I mean, it like really adds a fuck ton of depth to the way that city looks. I already liked it before, you know, but now it's just like a whole new game. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I know that the technology, from what I've looked into, is way better now than it was, you know, a few years ago. But yeah, I mean, it's still prone. Every display is prone to certain problems. I've heard OLEDs can burn in pretty bad if you leave them running, which I just don't. So remember when OLED phone screens became a thing over a decade ago? That was a great time. I mean, yeah, it's a little different. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I've ever had an OLED phone screen. Maybe. I have not read the 48 Laws of Power. Aren't OLED screens much thinner? That I don't really know. Like the OLED that I'm talking, I didn't get a TV. I got an OLED Steam Deck. So like a handheld. So I'm playing on that. What does O mean in OLED? Oh shit, this looks really good. I don't know. Optimized light emitting diode display. I don't know. Odin. Organic light emitting diode. I don't know. Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, cool. Now you know. Now you know, and you can lord it over everybody else. Congrats. O stands for vegan. Does it though? Question for me is Switch OLED or Steam Deck OLED? I've never played with a Switch one. Because it just depends on like whether or not you want to play Nintendo games or not, honestly. If you're a big Nintendo dude, like if when you think video games, you think Link and Mario and Kirby and Pokemon and stuff, then you probably want to get a Switch. If you want to play everything else, you probably want to get a Steam Deck. Dude, I was watching an old deep fat fried earlier that I didn't remember from years ago. It was Genesis versus the SNES. And man, I got salty again watching that. Wanted to argue for the Genesis, dude. I didn't watch the whole thing, so I don't know if I ever get to this, but like I just kept thinking like, dude, I want to make the argument that really puts the nail in the coffin for the fucking Nintendo. But I can't because I'm not there. But it was just like Nintendo was fucking lame, dude. Like, yeah, there's some fun games on it, whatever, but like everything on Nintendo was just like, you're a fluffy bunny in a cartoon magic world. How many carrots can you pick before the evil turtles get you? Or, you know what I mean? It was all just like cutesy, wootsy, girly kind of stuff. Dude, if you wanted to fucking play a video game where there's some titties or some blood, you had to have a Sega. If you want to play a video game where you could like shoot people to pieces and fucking pull people's heads off and do cool things and have guns, even, you had to have a Genesis. Nintendo had like all the little kid games on it, dude. Genesis was fucking dope. RPGs though, dude, there were a fuck ton of really good RPGs for the fucking Sega. Maybe not as broad a selection as Super Nintendo, because like honestly, like when you're thinking of Super Nintendo, what are the flagship RPGs on the Super Nintendo? Final Fantasy 3, right? Breath of Fire 2, Chrono Trigger. That's 3. What other ones am I really missing here? Like that were, I know there were more, obviously, but like what, maybe Earthbound? But Earthbound, like, I gotta be honest with you, Earthbound is popular now. Earthbound was not popular when it came out. It was not a well sold game. Mario RPG, I mean, whatever. I'm not a big fan, but I guess people like it, so we'll throw it on there. That's 5. And I think that's fair. I think if you start naming like Lufia and shit, yeah, like, yeah, there were more RPGs, but they're not the people fucking loved. Those are the main fucking ones on the SNES. On the Genesis, you had the Shining Force series, which was more of like a tactical RPG, like Advance Wars kind of, or Golden Sun, but way before that. And they're great. Shining Force 1 and 2 were fucking amazing on the Genesis. You had fucking Fantasy Star, particularly Fantasy Star 4, which is just like an amazing, fun, sprawling turn-based RPG, great story, great characters. Kind of cool because it's not like medieval, it's more like sci-fi, which was cool. So that's 2. Lunar, the Lunar series, Lunar, the Silver Star, and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, both Sega exclusives. Both 2 of my favorite fucking JRPGs ever. So yeah, Secret of Mana was SNES only. And that one definitely deserves to be on the list. So I don't know. I guess I agree that there were more on the SNES, but the idea that the Genesis just had no fucking great RPGs is, I think people just haven't played them. Shining Force is one of my favorite RPGs. Lunar, especially Silver Star, the first Lunar, one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Super simple, super fun. Fantasy Star, super deep, super weird. All of them had banging fucking soundtracks too. Dude, yeah, the Genesis Shadowrun game was a proper RPG. The SNES one was like a fucking stupid action game or whatever, but the Genesis Shadowrun game was like a proper fucking RPG. It was great. Yeah, but all of the Disney games looked and ran better on the Genesis, in my opinion. Like the SNES had brighter colors and shit, but the Genesis had way better animation quality and like smoother frame rate and shit. Wasn't there a Sega game that disturbed you? You're like a hitman or something? No, that was a PlayStation 1 game, I think, or maybe GameCube, maybe? Was a Manhunt. Splatterhouse was fucking a classic on Sega, dude. super gory, kind of beat 'em up side scroller. Super fun. Streets of Rage games are just classic. 1, 2, and 3. All of them are fucking great. Sonic 2 is great. Sonic 1 is great, honestly, but Sonic 2 is great. Sonic 3 is great. Sonic CD is the pinnacle of the series. All some of the best platformers in existence. Streets of Rage is way better than Final Fight. Anybody that picks Final Fight over Streets of Rage is just fucking coping. Dude, Manhunt was unbelievable at the time. Like, it was the most over the top, celebratory, violent game. And, like, it was just genuinely disturbing to play, which made it fun, you know, but very visceral, bloody, gory, sadistic kind of game. Yeah, I mean, dude, those games were hard. Comic Zone and Vector Man, they were good games, cool looking games too, but like totally fucking like really hard games. I never got good at those games. I used to play a lot of do you ever play what's it called? Something Battlestar Warriors? No, it's not that. Fuck, what am I thinking of? It was like a two-person shoot 'em up type of game. Side scroller, kind of like Contra. Battlestar. Why do I keep thinking Battlestar Warriors, but that's not it. But it was something like that on the Genesis, and that fucking shit was great. Gunstar Heroes. Yep, that was it. Dude, Gunstar Heroes was the fucking shit. Genesis only, baby. Shadow the Hedgehog, get out of here. Shadow's lame. Oh, dude, Gunstar Heroes. You would fucking love it, dude. It was so much fun to play with two players, too. Because you could kind of troll each other. Like, you couldn't shoot each other, but you could, like, grab each other and chuck each other places and, like, step on each other's heads to stack. So it was super fun. Yeah, Contra games were fucking super hard. Yeah, Road Rash was fucking hands down the coolest fucking racing game. I don't know, dude. It's just like I think people fucking like Genesis wasn't as widely adopted by people. Its marketing wasn't super great, and it had some fucking deficiencies in comparison with the SNES. But I think people sleep on it. I think there was just people that like didn't have experience with the games. Sonic is a better character than Mario. Totally agree. Agree. Mario's lame, honestly. Cutesy and derivative. Sonic had a little fucking attitude, man. He had an edge. If you just like left your, that's one of the things I remember thinking was cool about Sonic. Since Sonic 1, probably in all the Sonics, if you like started a thing and then found like a safe place and just left your controller alone, he eventually would start like tapping his foot and looking at his watch, looking at you like, are you gonna fucking play or what? Like that's totally like something that you would consider to be pretty normal in a modern game, but back then to have the character like break the fourth wall like that and acknowledge that there was a player, that was neat, you know? You thought Gex was very cool? Gex, dude, that was pretty lame, honestly. Like the stupid, like they went too far with the animal shit. Like I firmly blame those 90s games on the furry fucking epidemic. Like straight up. Like having an anthro animal or whatever the fuck in your game, that was okay, but when they started doing it to every type of animal and it was just, you know, like ubiquitous for these little fucking anthro animals to be running around, that's it warped people, dude. It warped Nikki into a fucking squirrel person. Nikki turned into a squirrel person, dude. Think about it. Well, yeah, like every company, they didn't just want a mascot character; they wanted multiples. They wanted these like flagship mascot characters. And to be honest with you, I think Nintendo was better at creating those than Sega was, because there are way more like identifiable Nintendo characters than there are Sega characters that are like emblematic of a whole series, you know? So like Mario, Samus Aran, fucking Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong. Like all those are still considered classic games, but can't really name many of those flagship type cartoony characters from the Genesis. There weren't a lot of them that were worth a shit, honestly, but like honestly, I wasn't really looking to play a bunch of those types of games. I mean, Sonic was fun, but you know, I wanted like the more adult, edgy, bloody, violent, you know, shooty kind of games. And you could not get that type of shit on Super Nintendo. Just wasn't a thing. Does Sonic denounce Hamas? I don't know. You'd have to ask him. You'd probably have a easier time contacting him than me. You've got, you know, you've got fucking feelers in the anthropomorphic animal community. Somebody's got to know somebody who knows somebody who's got Sonic's number, you know. I don't have any inroads to that. I don't have any connections I can call, you know. I have to leave that one up to you. Ugh. All right. Now that Israel has leaked its way into the talk, I think I'm done. Thanks for chilling. Like, I think that's my cue to to shimmy on out of here because I don't fucking care to talk about Israel. So yeah, I'll see you guys some other time. Yeah, bye.